As the influence of bloggers on the national psyche continues to grow, what are the politics of this new layer of influence, increasingly farmed with enthusiasm by established journalists? How do journalistic ethics apply? Well, we haven't investigated all the independence recommendations, but we can provide the following experience of one of them. This is Titan Twitterer number 80, Andy Lewis, aka Le Canard Noir, sceptical quackbuster extraordinaire, only interested in evidence, publishes everything unless triggers spam filter. We bumped into Le Canard Noir through investigating Steiner education, and Andy Lewis published a blog post on Steiner as a quack educational movement. When we tried to comment on the posting, we got stuck in moderation, which could have been due to WordPress policy of assuming that more than 2 links means it's spam. So we had to watch as one very angry former parent accused the Steiner movement of valuing bullies over their targets. Apart from his own experience, he cited the writings of Rudolf Steiner as his evidence. When more evidence was requested, the angry guy insisted that it had already been provided. Bringing a sceptical eye to this, it could be said that one concrete example and some occult writings don't show an actual tendency. So does that mean that there is no other evidence that Steiner schools behave like that? Not a very good result for Andy Lewis, really. But it's not his fault if no one comes forward with any evidence. Except that every time we tried to post, providing exactly the evidence that was being asked for, we hit the spam filters again. Andy had told us that our original comment triggered his spam filter, but when after 8 more hours Andy still hadn't released it from moderation, we decided to investigate. That's when we discovered that Andy had somehow come by several of our email addresses and individually blocked them. So why was he doing that, and how did he get hold of them? It turns out that one of only a couple of people who knew a particular address was also the person who commented first. A Steiner critic, Alicia Hamberg, has publicly condemned our work to publicise the behaviour of a Steiner school, even though she's never met us, and in spite of the fact that the director of a human rights tribunal is currently looking at the fact that this school's response to bullying was to expel the bullied children. This critic has publicly commended the school for expelling the children and published a description of this action as elegant on her blog. She's also vowed to condemn our actions to others, so it's quite likely that she's the one who passed on our addresses to Andy. Once we'd sussed out the email addresses, Andy started to add keywords to his spam folder. The commenter was still asking for the evidence we could provide. Whatever the truth about Steiner education's beliefs about karma and bullying, it's certainly not every day that a Steiner school agrees to mediate over human rights issues. But every time we managed to post, Andy would delete it, adding more words to his spam filter. So many, in fact, that others began having problems contacting him, since their messages and even emails also began to trigger Andy's over-enthusiastic spam machine. This comment was deliberately scrambled to try and avoid the spam filters, which by now were well primed with possible terms that would signal that this information, so on topic that it is the topic, may be being uploaded. We did finally manage to get the information up there for a few hours, and the last phrase we'd had to remove to get past the spam filters: human rights. So what about the ethics of all this? Well, Andy Lewis is adamant that refusing to allow us to comment isn't censorship, because, according to Andy, his blog is a private space. It doesn't look as if the other commenters are aware of that fact. Neither is the asker of this question aware that somebody is trying to answer it. So why did Andy publish on this subject if he's not genuinely looking for either new information or open debate? It's obviously not to provide evidence of wrongdoing at Steiner schools, even when others are clamouring for it. So what was the point of the article? Was it just a promotional exercise? Something to bolster his media outlet and strengthen his credentials? Shouldn't journalistic ethics apply if national newspapers are promoting Andy's influence? Putting human rights in the spam folder is possibly not what people might reasonably expect a bona fide quackbuster to be doing. So if the press are keen to be seen promoting citizen journalism but demand zero accountability, won't that in the end undermine its integrity and make other citizen journalists less likely to get heard?